All right, we're live. Hello, everybody. I want to give people a chance to join here before I open up the box. I've opened it up one time. Thank you, JB. Thanks for joining. Hello, Ernest. So we're about to open up the box. I've opened it before, and the markers looked amazing, but I've never painted with the Winsor and Newton pigment markers before. So if you are watching on replay, this is about to be an amazing experience. Give me some hearts as a drum roll, please. Let's open up here. So we have the new Winsor and Newton pigment markers, which I'm excited to use. I actually literally never use art markers before, but these are supposed to be different than something you would get from Copic or, gosh, I don't even know who makes them really. These are supposed to be pure pigment, and I'm really excited to give them a chance. So there's a whole array of colors here, and these are actually, hold that in my hands so you guys can see how big that is. And then there is a whole other tray under here. We've got there we've got some nice primaries. Down here we have some skin tones and grays and black. And this white here is supposed to be the blender. Yeah, white blender it says. So we're about to do a quick experiment with this. I'm really kind of crazy excited. So we have this whole array here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a painting that I've done before. So I did this painting on the inside of my aesthetic guide for the Dapper Man art book. And this is a limited edition. That one's still available for purchase. And then, so I did this painting. I'm going to recreate that with the pigment markers. And again, I've never used these markers, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. So you guys are joining me. I'm going to sit you right up here on this stand. You guys are going to have a nice view. And inside this kit is some Winsor and Newton pigment marker paper that comes with it. So this is supposed to carry the pigment really well. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of excited about this. So I'm setting you guys up on the stand here, and I'll position this in a way that everybody can see, hopefully. You open this up, my trusty X-Acto knife, always on the table. So here's the pad. It comes with, it's 20 pounds. It's a really light paper. And the two sides, well, they seem very similar. It's kind of a lightly, very lightly textured paper. Oh, there will of course be more watercolor. Seenum. Seenum is a word, there's no more watercolor. I am experimenting, Seenum. So we'll all see together what this is like. There are 50 sheets in here, so this will be a lot of time to experiment. But of course I'm going to keep doing watercolor. I can never stop painting with watercolor. What's the best way to lay this out? I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to take off the stand here for a minute. So what we're kind of doing is, we'll give you a broader view of the studio real quick. Standing up on a chair. So we have tons of mess everywhere. The computer, my reference is a previous painting I did, and more mess over here, but that's how I like it. So on one side I'm doing pigment, the primary colors. The other side I'm doing skin tones, grays, blacks, and the white blender. And the center is where we're going to have the actual painting happening. It's going to be interesting because watercolor paper that I usually use is about 120 pound or 140 pound, and this is just 20 pound. So it's going to be really, it's going to be a different experience. See if I can position that in a way we both can use it well. Now what I'm a little bit worried about is with this painting, I use India ink. I use Bombay Black India ink, and it goes on and it's waterproof. It's beautiful. I don't have to worry about colors mixing with the black. It just stays on there. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to try to follow my regular process. So I just popped the top off, and this is one side, and here's the other. So we have a nice thin side and a thick side. That's good to do. I can get some broader strokes in there, some fine detail. We'll see how versatile that is here in a moment. Ooh, I tried to put it on the wrong side. I'm gonna start with the black, because that's what I always do with my watercolor paintings. Oh gosh, this is always so scary. I've never used this before, and now I'm worried I'm gonna ruin something. So this has a nice chisel tip, and I'm not gonna press very hard, but let's see if that chisel tip stays or if it kind of dulls as I use it. And here we go. I'm going to start with the tie. Oh, I like how that ink goes on. It's a great start. The chisel tip is giving me some nice versatility. And then we're going to add the lapel over here. This is a slightly wider lapel than I would normally do, but this is kind of a Italian style double-breasted jacket, which is just gorgeous. I'm going to switch to the small side. See, yes, this is my first time ever using this pigment marker. Any artist marker of any kind I've never used before. So this is kind of a first for all of us together. So I just used the smaller side, and when I went really fast, the pigment went on fairly light. So I'm noticing a difference right now. If I go slow, there's a lot of pigment. If I go fast, it goes on very translucent. And that's good to know. You have to be careful of the speed that you use when you're playing with these markers. Is the faster you go, the less pigment you'll have. And I seem to be getting more pigment, which makes a lot of sense when I use the fatter side of the marker. And we'll put a little bit of the shoulder in here. Experimenting with the thickness of the marker there. And I'm going to switch back, and I'm going to go slow with this thin side to see what happens. Thanks, Sinem. Sinem says it does not look like my first time. It looks really nice. I hope that continues through. And I'm not liking how this is not focusing on the painting at all. Are you guys getting that as you're watching? There we go. I got it to focus back in. We're going to add a watch here. Think Rolex, think Cartier, something a little elegant, but not too hipster. So this smaller side seems to have translucent ink just in general. That's seeming to be my experience. I don't know if you can really tell on the screen there, but it's going on much thinner when I use the small end of the marker versus the thick end of the marker. And that's just an observation. I don't know if that's good or bad, just something I'm noticing. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. And right now you can kind of get an outline of the figure. That's because I know exactly what marks I'm about to make, so I don't need to define everything. So I'm closing up the black. I'm setting it to the side here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to use like we're going to experiment. We're supposed to be able to blend with these markers. So let's see what happens. I'm going to start with a blue, but I want it to be kind of like a navy blue. So we'll start with blue, and then maybe we will add some dark gray over top of it and blend those together and see what happens. Here's the blue. It's a royal blue. I think it'll look really nice. We're going to experiment. On this side, I'm going to cover the entire side of the figure in blue, and then I'll go over with white to create the pane, what do you call that, window pane pattern. On this side, I'll just draw out the window pane pattern and leave the background with white space. If that makes sense, I don't know, we'll see. Again, we have another fat tip, and then this will be a small tip. Let's take a look there. And I'll experiment with these just to see if it's the same as the black. If the thin side is thinner pigment, more translucent, just use the thin side there. It looks pretty opaque. They seem to be about a similar opaqueness between the thin end of the marker and the fat end of the marker with this blue. Okay, so it just overlapped a little bit with the blue and the black, and I can see the black coming up and mixing a bit with the blue there. And again, this is my first time using markers for an illustration, so my technique is not going to be great. Yeah, they kind of blend there. We'll see if the black pulls into the blue when I... Nope, it seems fine. Yeah, so it's not like using watercolors at all, but it's less subtle. That's the thing about markers that I've kind of avoided up to this point. Markers go on much more thick. They're kind of bullies almost. Where watercolor is very subtle, very ethereal. Okay, let's do the window panes. I'll outline. I'm gonna the marker looks wet on the paper here. I'm gonna rub my finger across, and we're gonna see what happens. Okay, it comes right off of my finger, and kind of it's so the ink you want to be careful with. It doesn't dry super fast. So you don't want to rest your hand on it. But it's and you can kind of see the marker strokes on there, and then again, that could just be my lack of practice with pigment markers or like artist markers of any kind. I'm going to outline the checker marks here, give myself something to work with. And we'll just color in this lapel here. Let's go. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Do any of you use pigment markers? And what's your experience with them? Or any artist markers of any kind? That's a pretty cool look there. So I'm going to leave that for a minute because I want to really experiment. So we've used black, we've used the royal blue. I want to experiment with mixing. Now there's a dedicated mixing or blending tool, which is this white marker here. It's even labeled on there, white blender. I don't want to try to use that yet. I'm going to start with this dark gray and see what happens when I mix this with the royal blue on the paper here. So right now it seems to be gliding right over it, but I don't know what it looks like when it's just by itself. But I really like that tone it's giving it there. It's gorgeous. Nice shadow. I'll add a little bit over here as well. Nice, gorgeous. So let's go, I'm going to see what it looks like without the blue underneath it. Oh, I think it's actually picking up a bit of the blue still. We'll actually use this gray to do this window pane. Okay, so there's a very clear difference. You guys are catching a glare on the screen there between the colors. And when they're blended together, it creates this beautiful, beautiful royal blue or navy blue when I mix the royal blue and the cool gray 5. I think the 5 is the darkest gray that's provided in the set. And this, I'm going to go and practice with some color. I'm going to throw a punch of red on here with this tie. We're using carmine red. I'm going to go ahead and throw a punch of that right on the tie. Oh, and you can see I almost erased the edge of that blue by mixing it with this carmine here. The carmine is a bit more, it's a bit cooler red, so almost leaning pink. And when I'm catching the edge of the black here, it's turning it to a muddy color. You can see it on the tip there. It's captured a bit of the black and the pink. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if it'll go away. What happens when I paint again with that marker, I'll find out in the future. But what I'm going to do is take the white blender and see what happens. Oh, that's great. Okay, so when I went over the black and the pink, it kind of muddied it up, which I don't like. I'm going to see if I can get some of that color off right here on the top. This isn't an actual sheet of paper, it's just kind of the cover. So I'm wiping some of that color off from the white blender. But I really, really like what it's doing right here on the tie. So I grabbed that carmine and it pulled it over. And once I wiped off some of the black, I was able to add a little bit of highlight on the top there. I'm going to take this other red that we have here, Winsor Red. It's a fun name. And add it down here at the bottom of the carmine. Give it more of a less of a pink, cool color, more of a warm red. We'll see maybe the tail of the tie is sticking out a little bit. Like that. And then I want to do a subtle blue over here. So I'm going to take the paler blue, phthalo blue. You know what I'm going to do, actually. Since I have that white blender, why not use it? I'm going to take the royal blue. I'm just going to make a small mark for the checker pane areas. And I'm going to... it is a little annoying how wet it is, but I can't compare it to other artist markers. So I don't know if that's inconsistent with other markers or if it's similar. But I like this a lot. So I'm able to take the dark royal blue and blend it out with the white marker to create a lighter version of the royal blue for the checker pane pattern on the jacket. To kind of let it fade out, which I really am liking. That's kind of gorgeous. I want to take this super pale gray. Hopefully it's super pale. This is gray 1, which means it's the whitest gray that they have. Oh, right, and creating some beautiful, nice shades on here. Take the white blender again and kind of get rid of this pure white line. Blend that blue in. And we'll draw this gray out a little bit. Here on the sleeve. Kind of finish out some of these window pane textures. I don't like that gray there at all, actually. I'm going to go ahead and use some of this blue. Yeah, and it is very wet, but I think that's what allows for the ability to blend. And I'm going to pull some more blue into this here. Color mixing. Thank you, CNM. And then we're going to add a little bit of shadow in for, add some gray. Gray number, cool gray number. Ooh, is there not a cool gray number 2? We have a number 5, a number 4, a number 1. So we don't have the full range of cool grays. And that's okay because we have the white blender. So I'm going to take cool gray number 4. And I am going to just kind of shade in a couple areas underneath the collar here. Maybe where folds in the shirt would be. So I can lay in blocks of color there. And we can take this pigment marker, and I'm going to scribble on the cover here again to get some of that blue off from the white blender. And we're just going to blend this gray out. Soften the edges. Nice, looking good. Again, this is not at all what I normally do with these pigment markers. It's kind of a fun new experience. I'm going to have to experiment more to see the full versatility. But it is looking really awesome. Okay, so I warned earlier not to lay your hand on the wet marker. So this is what happens. We got a little bit of mess happening, which is actually kind of fun. Feels more like we're painting and not markering. Okay, so then this is the one area where I would imagine in the future I would really like white acrylics versus this white blender, because I want some really strong white lines for the checker or for the window pane pattern on the jacket. And I'm not sure that this marker is going to be able to handle it. So we're about to see. I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, which makes sense. It's a blending marker, so it can't overpower the other colors if it's going to do its job. I'm going to use the fat side. Let's see what happens with this. Yep, same thing. Makes sense, though. It's a blending marker. You don't want it to overpower the other colors. Need it to be able to do its job. But I am really liking the look of this guy. So this is round 1. I'm going to go ahead and put some acrylic over top to, and this is what I use when I do my watercolor paintings, and I add white acrylic. And I do not know where I put my white acrylic, which is funny. Aha, found it. Sorry about that. So we're going to use white acrylic over top of the markers to make our whites pop. Now other people might use like a Conti crayon or a colored pencil, something with a strong wax to it, but I always prefer either watercolor or acrylics. Mostly because it has a texture to it. It's harder to control in a lot of cases, but it's just much more interesting texturally. But I'm imagining this white acrylic would also pick up some of the pigment if it's wet. So you might even be able to do the same thing with a white gouache over top of the pigment marker and create nice shades. And I'm going to experiment with that on the next one. Oh yeah, that's going on wet. It's getting really mixed there. And this is the white acrylic I'm putting on over top of it. So even that's mixing with the pigment marker, which is actually really awesome. I kind of like that. My lines are getting fat and muddied, which I don't like, but I can live with that. This is an experiment. And we'll go ahead and continue with the window pane markers, and we'll add a pocket square there. And this is actually a nice place where the pigment marker is going to come in handy, because if you can blend with this dark gray and blue, then it can kind of fade away and create a nice shadow on the window pane. Very nice. That looks really awesome. So that's the only thing. I need to experiment more. Leaving open white spaces is probably going to be the best bet to preserve bright whites when using these pigment markers. And so this is number one. Here are the Winsor and Newton pigment markers. They're brand new to the market. Having some fun experimenting. Oh, I have to sign this, of course. Let me go back to this Winsor red, and we use the fine tip, and we're going to sign it with the Sunflower Man signature. S15. And what I might do a little bit later on Instagram, probably around 4 p.m., I'm going to do an Instagram giveaway. And so follow along on Instagram later today, and we'll be giving away this piece for free. All right, and then I'll come back a little bit later with another experiment with these pigment markers. Thanks for hanging out. Let me say goodbye to you in person. My hair is a little bit coiffed. Nope, just messy. Thanks for hanging out, guys. And this is Sunflower Man. Follow me on Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, @SunflowerMan. Like, follow. Love you guys. See you later.